to start. Silence, please. Good afternoon, class. I'm Dinan, and she is in Genesis, and today we'll be talking about problems with questions. We believe that the name is pretty self-explanatory, but still we would like to give you an image or idea of what we are going to do. So,
Yes, in order to do this, we are going to act a little bit. We are going to imagine that I am a teacher and Dylan is Pedrito, an elementary school student. And Pedrito, what are you doing? What are you? So, what you have to do, pay attention to this instruction. Go there, turn around, clap your hands, and say hi to the classroom. And come back. Do you understand it? Oh my God. You see what happened? Did Pedrito did what I told him to do? No, didn't understand? What do you think this happened? I don't want you to give me an answer now, because we will be going through the answer through this lesson. So we are going to understand why this happens, and as teachers, how we can avoid these situations to happen.
this is an example of one of the many problem with questions. For example, one of these could be overloading. Sometimes we as teachers give instructions that are too long and complicated for students to understand and manage.
Or on the contrary, some questions or instructions that are not worth it to ask, that maybe are too obvious, or maybe they don't have an answer or a good answer.
Or too short.
Yes.
And in some cases, it's not the question the problem itself, but the time. Sometimes we give it too short time to answer. Do you understand? Do you have are you understanding what we are doing?
Yes.
So now we are going to do a little activity.
Yeah, we want them to move together and get closer to us,
We
but we will stay like this.
We were going to ask you to get closer, but we already did a circle, so it's not necessary. So, what we are going to do now, we are going to present you some scenarios, and we will read it all together, and we will see, discuss what is the problem and how could we solve it. Okay? Exercise number 1. So please, I'll read it with me.
So, are you going to do the exercise or are you going to listen to the radio?
What do you think is the problem here?
We will give you some time to think about it and reread the question.
Okay, so anyone of you have an idea what's the problem? Exactly.
The fact that there are somewhat of two questions there, as they are you going to do the exercise or are you going to listen to the radio, being the two questions somewhat of the same with the different object.
Okay. Does anyone have a different idea of what could be the problem? Yes.
We were discussing that maybe listening to the radio is not the the context of the instruction. It's a good for choice question, but maybe listen the other option rather than exercising. Needs to be like something more related to the content and the instructions so as to check the understanding.
Okay, good answer. Well, also another possibility would be that the answer is pretty simple and easy to answer, so it's not really necessary to answer. But very good.
No. With this question, we now must try to solve it. Who wants to give ideas to edit the question and make it better to understand? Does anyone want to do it? Do you want to discuss it again?
Can you repeat what we have to do?
Yes.
To look like a way to solve this problem, to make it a more efficient question. Or do you believe that it's not necessary to change it?
So we believe we should change it, and we think that maybe the question could be shorter. So we could say something like, so are you going to do the exercise or listen to the radio? Like avoiding the whole time, so it's more easier to understand the question.
Thank you.
Like getting rid of the you going, so it's not redundant.
Yeah. Now we read it together.
Okay.
First of all, students A runs outside the classroom and reads a sentence and then comes back in. Student B then writes down what student A says. Then student B's turn to go outside, and they do the same thing. Alright.
Okay. So follow. What do you have to do? Okay. So let's have a minute to discuss what is the problem.
Okay, I was thinking that maybe just say it. It's not that clear. That modeling is a good option to explain the instruction.
What else?
Give instead of saying student A or student B, giving examples of students' names in the classroom.
Time's up. Alejandro, what do you think is the problem here?
There's too many information and the question itself is too broad. So maybe we could, in order to adjust the question, could make more questions about comprehension, but in between each part of the explanation, so in order to make it more separated and more comprehensible.
Okay, very good. Does anyone have a different idea? No?
We were discussing about separating everything in steps and ask the clarification question like, alright, did you all understood after explaining every step? Because it's visually more appealing than showing a paragraph.
Very good.
We go to the next one. And we do the same of reading all together again.
So, what kind of food do you eat for dinner in your family?
Okay, not sure, not to worry. Let's have some time to discuss it.
the teacher can provide another or a second question, like a yes or no question. For instance, do you eat for dinner? What kind of food do you eat for dinner in your family? And if you don't have any question, like do you eat bread or do you eat soup? That's another yes or no question, but something like that.
Anywhere else? Okay. Does anyone have another idea? What's pretty cool?
Yeah, that as it is a WH question, maybe change it to as well said, forced choice question, or giving it more time to to think about the question.
Connie had another idea was apart from giving more time to express answer, provide a chance of language for them to engage in response. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Any options? Yes. One, two, three. So you can see the diagram of the whiteboard. The one at the top with the little green line. Do you think that the expression is perfect, or is it the one with the little crosses on it? Let's have something to discuss it.
I think that because it's
Elisa, what do you think is the problem?
So we need that the descriptions about where the diagram is are too complicated, and maybe put a number on top of the change the description instead of a with the line number 1 and number 2, and also that will shorten all of the text.
Okay, pretty good. Does anyone have another idea? Any idea of how to solve it?
But it would be easier to understand.
Maybe using gestures instead of just explaining everything that's right now.
Instead of trying to describe it, the teacher could have just went to the whiteboard and just pointed it. It would be easier. Last one. Okay. 1, 2, 3. You might like to answer them and tell me where you're likely to find something like rubbish. Okay, let's have some time to discuss it. Same stuff? Punch. What do you think is the problem here?
First, I thought of the wording of the question, and I would simplify it in my mind. Other thing could be, as an issue, the use of the word rubbish, which could be considered as slang or even an offensive word, considering it's like to say trash, but in a more informal way. So that might not be academic language. So there could be these two issues.
Okay. Maybe the student doesn't know what rubbish means. Maybe it's not part of their vocabulary. That could be a problem. So you would say the solution could be replacing the word.
By using the word could be one.
Okay. What do you think about the activity? Was it fun or interesting? Yes. So, please for that.
Yeah. Thanks to the activity, with all your ideas together, with all the solutions you have gave us, we can understand or get the idea that we have this problem with questions, and in order to be clear about what we are teaching and to be clearly understood by our students, we must revise them. Because sometimes we think that questions are just easily made, that are like automatically created by us. But we must revise if the vocabulary is that it is something understandable for the students. If we are being clear with what we are asking them to do. Earlier this activity, we had a little problem with instructions. We didn't know what to do with the other parts of the activity. When you asked if we had to solve it, what was that? What does that mean? Yeah, it was a problem, and we cleared it up. And with the Pedrito the Pedrito little play, we showed you a big problem, right, Dylan?
So, the objective of this whole peer teaching our class is to have in mind, as my classmate says, is to have in mind that our instruction should be always targeted to the audience or students we are teaching. And to have in mind that the question should be short and understandable, and their answers are more easier to express or it's easy to say and manage. So now we would like you to give us some feedback of what we could improve as teachers and
with the activity. What would you add to this activity? Would you do something else with it?
Would you change the activity? Would you improve it? In what way? So anyone has?
I would put like the corrected version of the instruction, so we would realize what was wrong, and it would have made our understanding and learning a little bit clearer.
Sorry about that. Each scenario has like a certain problem, but we believe that it has more than one problem, and you actually said what was the problem. And it's pretty useful because we are always looking like a way to improve the problem.
I wanted to say that maybe something that you could have improved would be that after every scenario that you show us, maybe you should have like ask for our discussion or opinions, and then maybe you state what you wanted us to guess or to learn from it. Because until the feedback team or when you wrap up, I didn't understand the relation between the first example you did, like with the Pedrito example, with the other questions. Because you said that we're going to understand it through the lesson, and it was a little bit harder to connect the audience.
Does anyone else doesn't know what the Pedrito examples? What was the problem with the Pedrito example?
It was too confusing to Pedrito.
Yes.
I think the major problem in this apart from the sample of the is like you said that we, through the whole activity and presentation, we were going to explain. So through the all 5 examples, we have to guess. So we have, at the end, we have to guess what happened with the children. No, you explain it to us.
So we could get back to that now, actually. So, does anyone know what's the problem with the Pedritos scenario? Does anyone want to answer?
Too many instructions at the same time, and they were all said very fast.
Okay.
So, in the case of a kid, because that's the idea, right down with the kid at that age, and taking into consideration that it's an ESL class in this context, most probably the kid's not going to understand nothing of it.
Yes, and that's a big problem with questions. In the text that we used for this presentation, there was 5 main problems of with questions. And we wanted to make you guess the problems because we were sure that you knew or that they were easily to find. Yes, we did a mistake by not showing you the real answer. But in summarizing all of this, what you said has to do with the actual answers in the text. The main problems are with short and longer answers, or no, questions, with questions that are difficult to understand, with questions with so much words, questions that have vocabulary that is not understood by the students, and
also not making sure if the student understands them. For example, the teacher never asked Pedrito if he understood what he didn't do.
yes, and even with time was also important. In the text we read about display questions and referral questions. I don't know if you remember that there was the biggest problem was with the time that teacher usually give to the students, because many professors don't take more than 2 seconds to hear the answer. One of those examples that we showed you was like, you're not okay? Okay, sure. You don't know. Okay. About 2 seconds, the teacher wanted the students to answer a complete answer just in 2 seconds. Is that possible or not? No.
Does anyone have anything else to say to that? The feedback?
Maybe maybe when you did make the example with the Vito, sorry, sorry. In this case, maybe it would be a good idea to use it as modeling for the activity that we are going to do. Like, you do the example here, and then you say, I don't know, in this case, the problems were this and that, and everything that we saw here, I put it right there, like written down. And then ask the students to answer to the other questions.
Would be better if we give it the answer right away after the
Yeah. Like a modeling exercise and then the other exercise. And maybe after that, what you could do is to, sorry, I don't know where to go. And then you put the question, the instructions, we answer, and then in the following page you can put the suggestions that you thought about. That could be the problem. And then we can discuss it. Okay, so what do you think about this? You said that, it was there, maybe your answer was incomplete and it was that thing. So you can play around with that.
So we made a big sample of problems with questions. Right here, right now, for you, in this channel. What do you want?
About the figure, I think that it was difficult to distinguish when you have finished with the explanation or the introduction part and then started with the actual activity. I think that it's a good idea to make it explicit that you are going to start with an activity and maybe have the instructions written so that we can realize that, okay, now it's time to perform this.
Plenty of good ideas.
Sometimes.
So that shows us that you understood the experience.
It was difficult. We hope that you get the idea of this.
Yeah, should we end the presentation? Yes.